Thank you, music team. Thank you, Randy. Thank you to our prayer chaplains serving today. And for everybody who works behind the scenes to make things go smoothly and easily. Thank you to the Board of Unity of Melbourne. Not an easy job. I appreciate what you do. So we are, as Randy said, firmly planted in this season of Lent. Sorry, Deborah, you're going to have to hear this first part again. So Deborah was with me last week at a different church. And this part is just my understanding of Lent, so I thought I would share it with you. I grew up Southern Baptist. Most of you have heard me say that. So the only thing I knew about Lent was that it had something to do with fish. Because in school, suddenly fish became the main meal on Fridays of every week. That was it. That was the sum total of my knowledge. I didn't know there was a difference between L-E-N-T and L-I-N-T. And my mom used to tell me that lint was the thing that gathered in the dryer and would catch fire if we didn't clean it out on a regular occasion. So I really had not a clue. And then I went to a different faith tradition where they taught me that Lent was giving something up. You must give something up for these days of Lent. So every year, based on my childish understanding, I gave up dark chocolate. Now, some of you are probably going, wow, I bet that was tough. No, I despise dark chocolate. So that's why I gave it up every year. Seemed kind of simple, right? If I got to give something up, I'll give up something I don't like. I didn't quite get Lent. And then I came to Unity and somebody actually explained it to me in a way I understood. It's about personal transformation. It's about a time of spiritual growth and progressing unfoldment of my soul. It's a time to align my mind with that of God. That I get. And if I'm going to give something up, then I need to give up things like negativity, things that don't serve me anymore, error thoughts that I have held on to since I was a little kid. And then the question became with Unity, then how do I transform my life? How do I actually change it? And a part of it was in the song that you guys sang so beautifully. Thank you. We have the power to change our lives through our thoughts, because thoughts shape who we are. Wow. Again, doesn't mean every random thought, thankfully, that goes through my head shapes and transforms my life. But it's those thoughts to which I attach emotion and feeling and decide, yes, I can do this. I can make this change. The first time you skipped it because you couldn't find the words, Dad. The second time, no, it was perfect. The second time, though, was my favorite line in the song. I am more than meets the eye. I am. You are. We have a hard time realizing that sometimes. We see only our faults and only the things that are wrong with us. We see all those things we know need to change or we wish we could change. But reality is you have tremendous power. You have the power to change yourself, to transform yourself, and to transform the world. Everybody good with that? All right. So another part of the answer has to do with the power that we're speaking on today, the power of power. Thought that was kind of redundant when I first heard it. And Fillmore would have said the faculty of power. But when we look at power and where it's located, it's here in the back of our throat. It's right next to zeal, which Reverend Therese talked about last week. So I have an affirmation that I use with power that I want to share with you this morning. I have the right to speak my truth. Will you say that with me? I have the right to speak my truth. Unity's fifth principle says, through thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth we know. Metaphysically, truth is the absolute, that which never changes. Reality is truth for you and truth for me are probably different. It doesn't mean that the truth has changed or moved. It just means that on my journey and on my path, I may not be at the same level that you are. So it's the truth that we know, that we understand. That is the truth that we need to be speaking. That is the truth that we need to be sharing with the world. Before we go too far, I want to say that power has two sides. There is that ego power that we all have. The part where we want to control things. I know none of you are type A control people, but there are a few of us in the room. And we are also generally perfectionists, so we get all upset when things don't go exactly like we want it to, and it's not perfect every time. That's being power hungry. That's having an overdeveloped power. That's when we go too far into power and we try to manipulate others and bully people, control them. We're selfish, we're domineering. Overdeveloped power. Politicians often fall in this category. Not going to get into politics. Just saying they often do. Big business often falls into this category. Bullies in school and work often fall into this category. Now I want to see if y'all me with this next one. Churches also fall into this category. Yep. Churches we left, the church we're in. We can all become power hungry and want to make sure that everything is just perfect. The first Sunday that our new pastor was at CCU in Orlando, I was platforming, she was speaking, and we said before we walked out, we're going to do a perfect service. We're not going to make any mistakes. We're just going to keep going. First announcement, we messed it up. And instead of getting upset, we both turned and looked at each other and just started laughing. Because what happened was in divine order. It was the way it was supposed to be. And somebody sent me a text message during the service that said, "Y'all are cute." Wasn't real sure how to take that for a moment. But I think the fact that neither one of us got upset, it's just the way things flow. Ego power would have said, no, it has to be perfect. It's her first Sunday. You don't want to mess that up. Spiritual power goes, no big deal. Move on. Ego power is when we speak words that hurt others and we condemn other people. A friend of mine who's a minister calls ego power divine amnesia, where we forget what we came here to do. We forget why we were incarnated. And if I can't control my feelings, great, I'll control yours. Divine amnesia. We all get that on occasion. Charles Fillmore said that self-control is the capacity to direct one's behavior in right ways. Sometimes I'm really good at that. Sometimes not so much. Directing it, making sure that I'm conquering my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, and dealing with them and not just pushing them down and burying them somewhere. Spiritual power recognizes that we're all spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual laws, yet acknowledging we are fully human and fully divine. Acts 1:8 says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you." I say to you, forget H-O-L-Y and let's look at W-H-O-L-E. You have the whole power at the moment you are born. That Spirit is a part of you. Holy with an H, holy with a W. That Spirit is already living in every one of us. There's a song that says, "The Spirit of God is upon me." Yes, absolutely. Do I acknowledge it all the time? Nope. Do I work with it correctly all of the time? Absolutely not. But that spirit of wholeness is a part of who I am. In the Metaphysical Dictionary, Charles Fillmore said, "Power is a person's innate control over their thoughts and feelings, a quickening from on high that must precede the realization of dominion." So we have all 12 powers living in us from the time of birth. To activate the power of power, we first have to learn to be silent. We go into the silence and we find out what it is we're supposed to be doing, what it is we're to use that power for. As I said, we can use it for our ego self, we can use it for our spiritual self. What is it that we're going to use the power for? Ever known somebody who just can't stop talking? Thank you for the testimonies, Tony. I have friends like that who talk nonstop. We'll be in a meeting, and if there's ever a moment of silence, they have to start talking. They abhor that vacuum of silence. They can't deal with it. They must talk. After a while, they sound like Charlie Brown's teacher to me. Wah, 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 wah. Or blah, blah, blah. I don't hear it anymore. I have other friends and acquaintances who in meetings actually, when they do talk, I listen to every word because it's such a rare thing when they do. They've thought about it, processed it, and are now talking. There's nothing wrong with either end of that continuum. It's just how each of us learns, and each of us learns to process. Those of us who are introverts and quiet love those who want to talk constantly in a class. The worst class I had at Unity when I was going through my OUT training was a class that only had 3 people in it, and one of them was the teacher. And 2 introverts. And we met face to face 5 days for 2.5 hours a day. I learned more from that class than any other because I was pulled out of who I think I am and used my power to actually speak my truth. So I think it's important that we spend time in silence. I think it's interesting that when people were trying to trick Jesus in his day and would ask him questions, he would often just smile at them and walk away. Silence. Some of us should learn silence. But we should spend time in the silence because in Lent, it's a very private thing. It's an inside job as we change who we are, as we unfold our soul. But once the silence is done, then we need to go out in the wholeness of our spirit, acknowledging that there is a God expressing in, as, and through us, and that is the Christ presence living in each one of us. And we need to go out into the world and speak the truth that we know. In Divine Audacity, Linda Martello Whitsett says that we express our power in 3 ways: concentration, self-mastery, and spiritual authority. Concentration is when you're laser focused on something. I know this is mine to do. I will accomplish it. I will make my goals. I will set my little measures, and I will make this happen. That's how we manifest. That's the divine idea going into manifestation. We concentrate on it. We get it done. I am horrible at that. I am really good at starting 30 things at once and finishing some of them, maybe. So I have learned over the years to concentrate. Being dyslexic and ADHD doesn't necessarily help that process, but you learn and you train your mind to concentrate. John and I have been watching March Madness because we love college basketball. And it's interesting to me to watch a team who is losing horribly, and suddenly one player gets it. They get the hot hand, and they bring the rest of their team up with them. They suddenly are the ones who are concentrating and understanding that there is potential and there is hope in the game that they're playing. Doesn't always mean they win. It just means that they got it going for their team. They became the cheerleader for their team by leading and doing. They learned to dwell not on the problem, but on the solution. How many points do we need in the next 5 minutes to win? That's the solution. Dwelling on the problem instead of the solution is when we give our power away. And we do that a lot. We give it to other people. We let them control us. We allow them to lead us even when they're bad leaders. We allow them to lead us even when we know they shouldn't be. We just give up our power. Dr. Nikki Golden posted a picture this week that said, "Where focus goes, energy flows." This is why we must always focus on what we wish to see instead of worrying about what we don't want to see. So for me, that meant on Facebook, quit posting things that I don't want in my life and in my world. Post only the things that I do want and the things that I want to see more of in the world and in my life. It was really pretty simple, but a hard lesson to learn sometimes. So this morning I ask you, in this season of Lent, where's your focus? Where's your attention? What are you concentrating your energy on and around? She also says that self-mastery is a part of power. She includes a quote from the Tao that says, "He who conquers others has physical strength. He who conquers himself is strong." And then from Sikhism, "With the conquest of my mind, I have conquered the whole world." Self-mastery is our ability to guide our thoughts, to guide our words, and to guide our actions, and to bring them into alignment with our highest intention. To align ourselves with the mind of God. To align the Christ presence in each of us with this beingness that is God. This comes from self-awareness, self-reflection, self-evaluation, all those self-things that most of us don't enjoy doing, but are necessary to grow our soul and evolve our soul into whatever is next. So I'm going to give you an intention for this one. Over this next week, I want you to see everybody as divine. We all are. We say that. We claim oneness. So when somebody has driven you right to the edge of, "I would like to hit you on the head," see them as divine. See the divinity in every one of us. And the final thing that Martella Whitsitt talks about is spiritual authority. When we hear that, most of us think of Jesus, spiritual authority. Jesus said, "I have spiritual authority." But we are also children of God, and we have that same authority. There is nothing about us that we can't control. Nothing. We have a spark of the divine living in us, which is Unity's second principle. And through our thoughts and actions, we determine our reality, which is Unity's third principle. We are each capable of doing more than we currently do. But we have to realize that there's more in us than we see, and that others may see in us. When I went from being Southern Baptist to the next faith tradition, they were very liturgical, meaning every Sunday I put on this robe, which was hot, and it had all of these lovely felt things all over it. And then you put on your stole. And then you went out and you did service in that. And then you did communion every service. And I kept thinking about, why am I doing this? But I learned that that's where I needed to be at that moment. So each Sunday, as I would put my stole on and as I would put on that robe, I would think about who I was, who I represent, what I'm doing, and why. So I don't wear robes anymore unless it's at UCF for a graduation or something. But every Sunday, I get to the church I'm speaking at early, and I sit in the parking lot, and I center myself, and I declare my own spiritual authority. You have that same authority. Every time you visit someone who is sick, every time you do a meditation, every time you go to see someone and just hold their hand and love them, every time you go out and visit somebody, every time you sing or play your instruments, every time you stand at that door and greet people as they come in, every time you pray with someone, you have spiritual authority. You have it because you are a child of God. You have it because we have the same characteristics as Jesus the Christ. We are capable of accomplishing many great and wonderful things. I want you to sit up straight for a moment. Put your hand over your throat. And now I want you to say again, I have the right to speak my truth. I have the right to speak my truth. Do you feel your hand vibrating? That's the vibration that our words put into this universe every time we say something. This morning, I invite you to be careful of the vibrational energy that you put into the universe. Every word we speak, every thought we have is indeed a prayer. Choose your words wisely. Speak truth to power. And know that the power in you is strong and ever present. And may every word we speak this week be a prayer. Namaste, my friends.